And as always, doing experiences. Max, go ahead.
Okay, so life is amazing, and I am extremely grateful every time I wake up in the morning. If I get the chance to wake up, I wake up with gratitude, which I hope all of you do.
I wake up hungover.
Yeah, you usually do, as you're drinking right now,
Yes.
and
Thank you, by the way.
which is always worrisome when you're on the air, because God knows what you'll say.
Well, I'm a wild card.
You are.
Complete wild
You are
card.
wild turtle. So, as I'm experiencing life changes and, adjustments, there's different attitudes that I've noticed lately.
Okay.
And I don't know if the two of you have noticed this or if our listeners have noticed, but people seem to be very much on edge. It's either, this way or that way. There's no middle ground for anybody anymore. It's either black or white. It's either red or yellow. It's either Trump or Clinton.
Or Sanders. Or Sanders. I
Yes.
voted today for Sanders.
Right, exactly.
FYI.
But nobody's mentioning him. It's all, what's happening with the Democrat and the Republican. The
Right.
independents are like lost in the whole mix here. I don't think there's enough support for independent thinking, not just our elections, but our way of life, thinking independently and outside of the box, and with a little bit more freedom of expression. I don't think people are doing that as much. And I find myself waking up and going, oh, I have to do this and this, and it's like, wait a minute, let me wake up first with a little gratitude of what I've got going on. And I think that's an important way to be. I don't know. That's my experience right now.
Okay.
What about you?
I have a pimple on my nose, and it's driving me absolutely crazy. That has been my experience.
Well, we went from a observational flow of conversation into a
Right.
dermatology
Right.
to yours.
Expression of dermatologist.
Yeah.
Fantastic, Turtle.
When was the last time you got a pimple, Max?
I don't know, 11?
11.
I was gonna say, who's last in office?
Nixon. No.
If you take care of yourself, if you eat right, if you know that certain things are going to make you break out or cause these blemishes, then you know to stay away from it. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I never had a problem with that. Even like in high school or going through, the puberty time, I never had it.
well,
I don't know, I got blessed in that way.
It is like my brother and my sister had it really bad. I didn't get it bad.
Nobody in
brother
my
and
family
sister
had
got
it
really
at
bad.
all.
But yeah, but it's bugging me because it's like right by my like glasses and stuff like that. So it's like, it gets.
I thought that was just your nose.
No. My nose is beautiful. Are you kidding me?
there's a lot of self-confidence.
Yeah.
I hit my nose today. I hit my whole forehead. I was like getting dressed and I went to pick something up off the ground and I just smacked my whole face. So it's like all swollen. You can't tell because of my bindi, but right between my eyes, like swollen and red. And my eyes feel all bruised. Oh, gosh.
You should bust out those big Jackie O glasses or the Swifty Lazar.
I know.
And just sort of.
I should wear those. I should. So you're telling me I'm ugly? That's what
Oh.
you're saying?
No.
You better hide.
He's saying style. He's like, hey, you need more style.
Yeah,
Jackie
see, that's
O-
why Turtle's wearing
No.
glasses.
Jackie
Turtle,
O had style.
turn towards the camera. Look at
Yeah.
these glasses.
Dude, I'm wearing these glasses because I haven't been getting any sleep lately. Like,
Is that what it is? You sure
Is
you're
it?
not a
Yeah.
cop saying, "Can I see your driver's license and registration"?
Right.
No.
your breath.
I just went on this. Friday started this crazy sleep deprivation thing that I went through. So I have two jobs. Well, yeah, I have two jobs. One is like I call it like a part-time job that happens occasionally. So I clean a bar in the morning, Saturday, Sunday, and then I have to be there at 5 a.m. because the bar opens up at 8 a.m. I could be there after 2, but sometimes, at 2, there's still people around, and at 5 o'clock, nobody's up, so I can have the door open. I have to take out the trash and all that stuff. And then I also work at a cafe, and I'm a closer there. But if I work 8 hours, I have to work from 1:30 until 10:30 at night. But besides that, I have to actually close the place. I have to mop everything, do all the dishes, clean the grills, everything. Right? It's really intense. So when this happened Saturday, well, what sucks is I'm such into party mode on Friday, and I get the text, hey, I need you to cover for me on this weekend at the bar and clean it, because it's not every week. It's just I fill in for people that can't do it that week.
Are you the first line of defense or the first person that they contact?
Yeah, the first person, and then last month the weekday guy, because there's 3 of us. There's a weekday guy, there's a weekend guy, and then me. I'm the fill-in. And last week, the weekend guy, he got in a car accident.
Oh no!
So yeah,
is he okay?
He's okay. It was in a bike accident. Let me rephrase that. It was a bike accident. He's a motorcycle person.
That's even worse.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So he was out for 3 days, and so I had to come in on the weekday and fill in, which wasn't that bad because weekdays it doesn't get that crazy. It's just on the weekends. That's when everyone's partying. That's when you're finding all this, all this stuff. So, I go in, and on Friday night I can't sleep at all, because I'm in party mode. Because I'm supposed to be partying at this time of night.
Your body hasn't adjusted to
exactly. So, the alarm goes off at 5 a.m. and I'm like, fuck my life. I couldn't get any sleep. So I go and I clean the bar, and then I just can't go to sleep. It's 8 a.m. and I'm trying to toss and turn, and I can't get sleep. And then just when I'm right about to get to sleep, my friend calls me, and he's like, "Dude, he doesn't have a car." And he's like, "I'm taking the bus to work, but the bus hasn't showed up, and I'm late. I need you to pick me up." And I'm like, oh no. I'm just right when I'm like, of course this would happen. So I go and I pick him up, drop him off. And by then it's 1 o'clock, or it's 12:30. It's time for me to get ready to actually go to work. So I get ready, I go to work, and I'm exhausted. I was able to get 10 minutes of sleep, if that. So my first break comes around. We get 3 breaks. We get a 10-minute, a 30-minute for lunch, and then 15 minutes. So the 10-minute comes, and I'm drinking basically 5 shots of espresso with French vanilla. I'm just trying to to me, I'm that's the only thing that's going to keep me up. That's my lifeblood right now. So I finally make it to my half hour. I go to my car and I fall asleep, and it's hot. We're experiencing what I like to call a Cali Caliente weekend, where it's just ridiculously hot. So I'm in the car trying to sleep. I'm sweating. And meanwhile, all that's going through my mind is I got to make it to close. And of course we get slammed, and I don't get out there till late. And I finally, fall asleep, and then I have to wake up again, 5 a.m. But this time I got to be at the cafe at 11:30 because I'm working 11:30 to 9. So this whole week I was just so sleep deprived, and it was weird. I looked at my eyes for the first time, and it was weird because there was nothing but the when your eyes are all black, and they're all blotchy, and it's that was such a LA moment where I was like, does anybody have any cucumbers I could put on my eyes?
Tea bags. You're in a bar. You can use tea bags.
Tea bags? I didn't even know that.
Sure, of course.
Shark's got black eyes, like a doll's eyes. Those eyes roll over white.
So as I was coming in today, I looked at my eyes. I was like, dude, I need more sleep. And B, I woke up really late today because I was finally able to get actual sleep because
sleep.
The key is, it sounds as if to get to an even keel, you have to adjust to your schedule that you normally have. Had your friend not called you with the bus situation, it's great that you bailed him out. That'll be karma coming back to you.
Right.
But he did change your schedule to a point where you might as well just, sleep on a cot in the attic at the restaurant and not go home because your body clock has not adjusted to any slight change that you normally have.
Right.
And, sometimes when people are sleep deprived, it's by choice or by design. But in this case, it's like,
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's
That's
the
what
way
it sounds like.
it was that whole week. It was just like, no, you will not, you will be denied sleep all week. So my eyes were so weird, and I was just like, dude, I gotta wear glasses today. Like, no one should see these eyes until maybe next week when I'm like fully rested and back to my normal schedule.
It's like, the future's looking brighter. Gotta
Yeah.
wear shades.
It's a good thing you don't have a dog to pee in your bed.
Yeah,
Ah.
dude, that would have kept me up even
Jeez.
more. But have you gone through something like that where you're trying to get something done or sleep, and then there's all these obstacles that just jump in your way?
Like dogs peeing.
Well, you, Max, in the instance of your situation, you should just have a bottle of urine be gone at your bed, because if that ever happens again, it's like, I don't know if you have like the gate by your, if you allow Arrow to sleep with you, that's one thing. But the peeing, it's like if there's excitement, whatever caused that to happen, it's going to happen again unless you have preemptive measures in place, because that would pretty much suck at 3 or 4 in the morning and just like
Yeah.
right on you, right in your arm, right in your head when you're not
No,
expecting
it was at my feet.
When you're not
It was at my feet, but it was,
Still,
and he's
Not
very
expecting
good
moisture in
about
bed
that.
unless it's
He doesn't normally do anything like that. So it was, very out of character. And I believe because, we had a big barbecue over here the other day, and there was a
Tons of
bunch
people.
of random dogs that I don't even know whose dogs they were,
Mhm.
but they were here. And so he was like overly, excited and exhausted. And then somebody didn't walk him last night. It
Oh.
wasn't my job, but they didn't do it. And,
a lot of moving parts of the
ay,
party.
ay,
because,
ay. Oh my
yeah,
gosh. Yeah, it always happens that way.
lack of sleep and dogs with lack of walking. Bottom line, prioritize your time. Prioritize your day. If you can do it the best you can, because if you put everything all at once, you're gonna go crazy.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a routine when you wake up?
I try to have a routine. For me, a routine works knowing that I map out, what I'm going to be working on for the weeks ahead. I know what the work schedule is going to be. If there's a change in the work schedule, I have Plan B, Plan C in place to rectify that. But waking up, for starters, as you mentioned at the very top,
Yeah, that's key.
that's key. Every day above ground is a fantastic day.
Yeah.
So, get out of the room, get out of the house, go for a hike,
Yeah.
get some air, or what we consider fresh air in Los Angeles,
Yeah, whatever that is.
whatever that can be, categorized as. But the important thing is, stepping away from the electronics, stepping away
Right.
from the four walls, and just getting out to nature.
Yes.
Have a little sustenance to power through the day, and after that hike, after a little cardio,
Mm-hmm.
then try to get through. Okay, what do we now need to attack? Boom, 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 boom.
Right.
So for me, it works.
When you wake up and you're going through your morning routine, are you listening to music?
I ease into it.
Do you?
I don't fire off something really loud, really fast, or aggressive, because
Oh, that would be bad.
that is not. That's not a way to set the tone.
Mhm.
Set the tone for the day. Set the tone for the week. If I'm going to hear music, it's something I'll ease into, because on those long walks and hikes, I will have music on, in the earbuds. But that's often how the mood is. It'll usually be something mellow before I ease into something aggressive, because for me, music's so important,
Mhm.
and it's kind of in all aspects of
Right.
my day-to-day life. But talk radio or something like that. But yeah, music, you got to ease into it, especially in the morning.
I listen to Amy Winehouse when I take a shower.
Amy Winehouse.
Yep, she's my go-to morning person.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, something about her voice just is, gets me going,
Mhm.
for the day.
A lot of her voice is, to me, like such a throwback to the
Yeah, it
60s
is.
artist,
It is.
and, the Motown sound. So
Right.
I think this is an interesting choice.
Yeah, and speaking about Motown, interesting fact about me that you probably don't know. Some of our my listeners do. Some of them don't. But I was signed to Motown, and
Really?
at one time, yeah. And it was crazy because I was expecting to be signed and have that Motown sound, you know. And when I was in the studio, and I was with the 3-girl band, and they said, "Yeah, Max, we love what you're doing there, but could you sound white?" And I was like, "No, no, I can't. I can't. That's
We need
not
a
how I
more
sing."
Caucasian sound.
I'm like, "What are you talking about? This Motown."
I've heard
You
many
know,
producers
what?
and engineers say just those exact words, and that is no exaggeration.
Yeah.
When you were approached by Motown, question for you, Max,
Mm-hmm.
was this Berry Gordy directly?
Yes, it was.
Oh, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it was a very big deal.
Wow,
It was a
okay.
very, very, very big moment in my life. I sang for him in his office and
Wow.
shaking like a leaf. And
Yeah.
I had been
Great
with
name of a song.
CBS before that, and yeah, with the great Joe Iskro. And when he went away, all the bands that he had signed were tossed out as well. So my band, Nobody's Girlfriend, and it was a great time too because we just were signed and it was a big deal.
And you were nobody's
and
band at that point.
yeah, and we were working with Richard Marx and Gino and Ross Vanelli. Were writing with us, so we're doing all of that, and it was very exciting. And then it was gone in a flash, and we were very excited that reformed the band in a different way, and then went to Motown because they called. I was doing some stuff with Mickey Free, Shalimar, and
Good old Mickey,
yeah, and they were like, hey Max, can you come down and bring the girls and sing? And I did, and I was like so excited. And then they wanted me to be white, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to record, and then I'm not going to tour this because I can't do it.
I wonder if this was said to Dan Reed Network,
Oh.
as the White Prince, or Jane Fields.
Yes.
I don't want to. I don't want to. She came out in like
Yeah.
1991.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to
Oh,
fall
yeah.
in love.
I don't want to follow. It's a huge hit.
Oh,
but,
absolutely.
But it's like, I wonder if that was said to her. There's many artists like that throughout the years.
Maybe it was sent to Milli Vanilli as well. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Dan isn't even white.
No,
So,
he's not. But
it was
marketed as potentially, and this is, I was not in the offices of Polygram at the time, but I can guarantee someone in the marketing department or promotion department somewhere there had to have said, well, he'll be our White Prince. And his releases were very funky. They were very R&B and
very,
soul
very
based,
funky.
which was fabulous.
Yeah.
But when we're talking late 80s, early 90s, Prince is still active, the artist Prince.
Right.
So he's still putting out releases. So Polygram's probably had the discussion, well, it's a rock band, but there's a little funk edge. He'll just be our White Prince. And I'm sure that was in a memo somewhere. Because it's unfortunate that producer said that to you, Max, because what I have always felt, even when I did A&R back in the day, I always felt that the music should speak more highly than the presentation or the appearance of the artist. If you
Right.
believe in the music and you believe in the material, that should be at the top of the list of importance versus what someone's appearance you want them to be.
right.
And unfortunately, that went on quite a bit.
It definitely did.
And it kind of probably still does in a lot of different areas.
I'm
I'm not
sure-
in the
I'm sure it does.
American Idol world, but just the fact that they said that, I'm like, man, that's
Yeah. And it's funny because when we had Dan on the show, we actually talked about this subject and, his sound from that time, as you remember, Turtle, and the record that I produced for Dan was such a faraway step from anything Dan Reed Network, because it was very world-oriented, Palestinian and Israeli musicians for the first time in history together on one record, and it was very, Israeli throat singers and ouds, and it was like that. So it was the music that he was always meant to do, and then to be able to take that and then go back to the funk of Dan Reed Network. Yeah.
By the way, with us is Will, and you do a show, Vault Radio show on KNEC.
yes. The Vault is the name of the show. KNEC is the online station.
Right. .com.
Yeah, this comes out of the ashes of 105.5, which
The great
was,
105.5.
Now, it was rock and rhythm before it switched formats in 1986. So rock and rhythm would be equivalent to what K-Rock would play, in the 80s and the 90s. But when it went pure rock format, that was pretty much a game changer. Because along with KLOS and KMET at the time in Los Angeles, you had 3 stations that were prominent with actually playing some deep cuts from time to time, as opposed to paying the tired 2 to 3 same song by the same bands. But once KNEC unfortunately switched formats for the final time in 1995, that staff had moved on. It went to K Buena, Tejano Music, and then 3 years later, KNEC went online. So
Thank goodness.
Well, hey, this way, anywhere anyone in the world can hear the stream, as opposed to the weak signal that was the case in Long Beach, California. Because I'd always hear, and I still hear stories to this day, even though I wasn't part of the 105.5 era, I was always sending them records, the label I worked at the time. But I would always hear stories of people bending all kinds of antennas and whatever foil that they can make and hangers and stuff. And we were doing whatever we can, and everyone was a MacGyver. Everyone was doing their part to try to get that signal, no whether they're the San Gabriel Valley, the San Fernando Valley, whatever the case was. And that was always an interesting part of that experience, because you could not get it all that much because of the signal was so weak. But everyone said, we did this, we did that. And I said, well, perseverance. You were committed to get to hear the rock and roll. So.
It's true. I was really great friends with the late great Tawn Mastry.
Love Tawn,
and God rest her soul. She was amazing, and she would complain about that all the time. Nobody can ever hear me. I'm wearing this leather for nothing.
I'm friends with Filthy Phil.
Yeah.
Good old Filthy Phil. Yeah, he's aware of many hats.
Yeah.
He's
and filth.
And filth. Yeah. He along with the PA announcer for the LA Kiss, of course, but most notably
for the Ducks.
Yeah, the Ducks, and he's one
fills in for the Angels too.
And one of the co-owners of the KNEC.com. So,
so tell him I said hello.
I shall pass it along.
Yeah, like this guy DJ Troll. He actually showed me how to create a website and HTML. I was taking a class at Mount Sac, and he was the professor, and then he was teaching.
Professor Filthy Phil.
Professor Filthy.
Well, at the time it was just Phil. He's like, it's just Phil,
The 3P.
And then, he showed me a little engineering, and then, I was telling him about what I wanted to do. And at the time at the radio station at the college, what I wanted to do, the college just couldn't support it because they just didn't understand my idea. And this was, the show that I used to do. I'm still trying to do it, but it's just a lot of work, which is where I bring in a band and then I record them. And it's all live, and then I interview them and stuff like that. So I was trying to do that. That was like the roots for Enter the Shell. Started with Filthy, and so it's great. I want to know, have you guys turned KNAC.com into an app yet?
The app is accessible through TuneIn.com.
Okay.
Yeah, if you go to TuneIn.com and you type in KNAC, then you will get the app right away.
Right.
And often the case is it's a quicker accessibility point versus our website. But I always say you can listen via Real Player, Windows Media, Real Player, Winamp, QuickTime, or TuneIn Radio, because it's whatever piece of media, whatever you use, laptop, desktop, phone, you can hear the stream. But TuneIn would be the best way to get access to that app.
No worries.
Yeah.
Well, when are you on?
Sundays from 10 to 1. And I'm fortunate enough that
10 a.m. or 10 p.m.
10 a.m. Yeah, Pacific Standard Time. Because I always start my show with good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Pure Rockers. Because anyone from you could be in Australia, you can be in Hungary, you can be in France, you can be in Italy, and it's morning, afternoon, evening, somewhere.
Right.
For me, it's 10 in the morning. So, but 10 a.m. to 1. It's 3 hours of more aggressive European heavy metal. Every now and then.
Pure rock.
Yeah, well, yes, absolutely. The pure rock is there, but I sort of give it my own slant, my own feel to it. Outside of the occasional interview from time to time or the occasional contest, a lot of the music that I play comes from my collection, and a lot of the bands from Europe, for what I kind of like the most, what I sort of gravitated towards. You know, all the years of working at independent to late majors. I accumulated a lot of stuff.
Right.
So I like to sort of give back because I always say 3 hours of power, speed, and thrash from the 80s, but that's not always true. I'll play a lot of current stuff or stuff that's the bands that are still recording that were viable in the 80s, that are still doing things. So,
Yeah, we're going to talk about the 80s after we hear
another song.
Yeah.
You brought some music for us to play.
Now, I brought you some music. See, these are some bands that I actually had a hand in signing.
Okay.
And or did the A&R for. Actually, kind of all of the above.
So. Okay. Well, now we just, not we just, but we heard that Sacred Reich, The American Way.
Yes, from Arizona.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me a real quick brief story about it. Well, we already heard it, but
yes.
if you could just tell me like a brief story.
Sure.
About that.
The song you heard, "American Way," that comes from their second release. That was a follow-up to "Ignorance," which came out in 1987. They came to my attention by Jason Newsted, former bassist of Metallica, who was formerly in a band called Flotsam and Jetsam that Metal Blade Records had signed, where I worked. My first record company job, and he basically was a big champion for the Arizona music scene, being in a band himself. So one thing led to another, and they were really good. So they sounded a lot like Slayer. They were just really heavy, and there was a political slant in their lyrics. So we ended up putting them on a Metal Massacre. My first compilation, actually, for Metal Blade. And then we ended up signing them to a full-length deal. So that was actually one of my very, very first signings at Metal Blade Records.
Cool. Let's hear another song we can do. Let's see.
Let's hear Toxic Waltz by Exodus.
Okay. Can you give us some backstory on that?
Okay. Exodus were, at the time, one of the kind of still are, really one of the originators of thrash metal. At the time when they were signed to Capitol, I had just left Metal Blade Records. So they actually had an album in the can, and I ended up A&Ring them for a time, and it was a lot of fun. I've known the guys for many, many years, and this is the band that Kirk Hammett from Metallica, again, another Metallica connection, Metallica started. And he basically gave the band his blessing. The band is still performing, still playing live. Gary Holt is now doing double duty with Slayer and with Exodus, and now this song comes from one of their previous records called Fabulous Disaster, and this was an indicator of what to expect at one of their shows. You don't mosh, you don't just dance, you do the Toxic Waltz.
As we are here with Will. Can I call you Will?
You can call me Will, but I would
Sir.
Yeah.
Will, sir?
It's professional name and real name is not a big stretch. It's DJ Will or William. It's like I'm not real particular about it, so
Okay.
it's all good.
No worries.
Besides, we just met, so it's all good.
I know, but we've known each other our souls have known for like years.
Aw,
Eons.
isn't that special?
I wore this
That's
shirt
so
actually
special.
for you. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
Disclose.
They are like my favorite. Like whenever somebody says metal, this is the band that I.
You don't think Bon Jovi?
No.
Really? No.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me interrupt you for a second because that's very interesting that you say that. With the amount of bands that have come out in the last 15, 20, 25 years, what you gravitate to, based on what you just said, you gravitate to a creation that is not a actual band, but it's played by real musicians.
How dare you? They're a real band.
But the fact that an animation project is what you're drawn to.
Yeah.
That's very interesting because Brendan Small does a great job. They do a great job with the voices. They do a great job with compiling all the music and the animation, and it's very popular. But I would imagine you would have said, like, anything that has been around for a long time. Interesting.
No, nothing compares to, like,
To
this
you.
band. Well, that too. I got to see them at Festival Supreme a couple of years ago, and it was really cool because it was just all black, so you couldn't see them.
Right.
You know, it's very mysterious.
Well, of course.
And it was just like, yes, like, I don't know. It was just, you know, it was just everything that, and then their music is just so like, it really makes you want to bang your head, you know, like nothing,
It's angst ridden.
nothing against like all the other bands and stuff like that. But it's just, for me, it's just like, this is the quintessential, like,
Yeah.
you know, metal.
It's
for
kind
me.
of like Where Traders Fall. You know, they've been on our
Right.
show. They're from Virginia and recording with Anthony Esposito at Absenic Arts. They're very much like them. You know,
I would compare more of a, like a Gorillaz, you know.
really?
Like a Gorillaz.
Well, that's
band.
another project that is animation driven with a backing band.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
But-
Yeah, he's very
And Damon
animated.
Albarn. And
No,
I'm a
interesting.
big
I gotta,
Blur
I
fan.
gotta have you go through my collection one day. I gotta have you here at the Gates or Lamb of God or early.
Yeah, Lamb of God.
You know, some Sabotage or I mean, there's loads you would enjoy
Yeah.
if you like Death Clock, Metalocalypse.
Metalocalypse. And not only
Yeah.
that, Metalocalypse.
Even Gene Hoglan, who's in Dark Angel and 15 other bands like Strapping Young Lad and all this other stuff, he plays drums in that, but he also plays drums. Again, he's in Testament. He's been in a lot of different bands. All the bands that you would enjoy if you already enjoy
Right.
Metalocalypse. So I just that's a bit of a head scratcher. I appreciate you wearing the shirt. I appreciate you
Yeah.
breaking out the fresh laundry, but
Yeah.
That's really the truth right there.
broaden your horizons just
No.
a bit. The new Gojira.
Death Clock.
Oh, all right. To each their
Usually
own.
he
Yeah.
wears little
Yeah.
girl shirts. That he's, no, he does.
But
Really?
that's only because I can't find my size. It's like really tough to find my size.
That's what
everything.
that's what the scissors are for.
Yeah, right? You know, Jack from Exodus almost moved in here. He was going
Oh,
to
really?
be my roommate,
Uh-huh.
but, you know, they're doing a new record up in San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
so the timing wasn't good, but he could have lent you a shirt.
I'm sure.
He
That'd be cool.
could've. And
I'm usually
cowboy
like an
boots.
extra
He's so into
small.
cowboy music.
And he's got his own
a-
little project.
Yeah,
which is,
he's a full-on country player.
yeah, he's. But you know what? I think with Jack's project, because I've heard it because he turned me onto it a few years ago, and I said, well, that's cool, but it's a complete 180 of what he
Yes.
does with Exodus.
Yeah.
And I think actually that's a healthy thing to have because it allows you as a musician and as an artist another outlet.
Absolutely.
When you have downtime, when you are just full of ideas that won't conform to the project that you're in. So why not do something country western? And for him it works.
Yeah. it does.
So I think that every artist should have that because you're going to have downtime. You're going to have periods of long periods of inactivity, draw, paint, whatever is creatively you want to get into, do it.
Right.
Do it. So, yeah.
Yeah, but don't do it like me and then have so much going on that you have zero time.
Multitask. Yeah,
And the only time that I would have had to sleep, my dog pees in the bed.
What do you do, Will, creatively?
besides all the computer stuff I do, for me,
that's not great.
And that's-
going back to the love of music and concerts, going to concerts. The live element is always an intriguing thing to me because all the artists that are still out there touring and putting out new material, it's always a absolute pleasure to hear those songs live, and to see whatever tour packages put together, to see that energy live, and to see the crowds that go to these shows. It's that I still get a thrill from that. That's more of the entertainment side of things of what I enjoy, but just going to the beach, skateboarding, getting out of the house, just doing things. As the weekend warrior part of me too. A lot of softball, volleyball, things like that.
yeah,
But,
you're big in the softball.
yeah.
I've seen you play.
Oh, this is true. You have you have witnessed me rounding the bases and
Well-
diving for fly balls, but
A lot of fly.
that's right. I didn't have the opportunity to go to a college and play sports. There were a few. Just dipping back a bit, that's kind of where it started. I grew up watching football. in basketball and baseball. But obviously, football was my first love. I've watched all the big games and
Right.
know a lot of
Who's
crazy.
your team?
Believe it or not, no one understands why, and I've explained it to them because it's only meaningful if there's a backstory to it. But my team is the Carolina Panthers.
Holy cow!
Yeah, my
Yeah.
brothers too. That's
And-
really disturbing.
But disturbing. But see, for me, the origins of that stem from. I'll just give you the backstory of this and go back to the other things I enjoy. My interest in a team stems from growing up being a Steelers fan, and I grew up during this. See all the games with the Steel Curtain, Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, all of that, the Immaculate Reception, all that stuff. And when 1994, 1995. And this is for anyone who follows NFL football. If you don't follow football,
Then you shouldn't be listening to our
then
show.
you shouldn't be listening.
No. Then you're probably following baseball, which is
Yeah,
cool.
this
I know.
Totally cool.
this may fall on deaf ears. I'm talking American football, not football. In 1994-95, the NFL had an expansion
Right.
season where they had two teams, where two cities were given the opportunity to have two teams, Jacksonville and Carolina.
Right.
So as that draft molded and took shape, there were a lot of Steeler players that became Panther players. And what intrigued me about it is, this is more of a ancillary reason. I like the name and the colors because my favorite color is blue. Now that's a real
They're baby blue though.
okay.
And you're not even wearing any blue.
Right.
I'm wearing blue somewhere. Anyway, to the matter at hand. So
On
I
his
was
wrist,
intrigued
on
by
his wrist.
yeah, after growing up and watching football for so many years and going to the games, and I was intrigued by a new team coming into the picture because, okay, you say maybe I can just sort of see how they develop. And as it turns out, a lot of Steeler players and personnel came over there, and that's how that started. And as it turns out, they ended up being successful in their second year. They were one game away from the Super Bowl in their second year. So that was the intriguing part, and I followed the team ever since during the highs and the lows. So the only significant thing for this year with the Carolina Panthers, besides the horrible Super Bowl loss, is they will be playing their first game ever in Los Angeles for the first time against the now returning Los Angeles Rams. And
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, that's a coin flip. That's a whole nother discussion as far as fair weather fans, this and that.
Right,
But yeah, that is my team. I mean, now as for football, hockey, yeah, it's the Kings. Yeah, I watch the Lakers, and baseball, of course, is the Dodgers. But for football, that's my number one main sport, Carolina Panthers.
Right.
So.
Max is a Dolphin fan.
Well, she's a Florida gal.
I bleed green because I'm from Philly. I was born in Philly, so I'm an Eagles Dolphin fan.
Eagles, Dolphins.
Yeah,
fan.
I was born in
Interesting.
Philly, but I grew up in Florida, so I have both, which is hard sometimes. It's very hard, but I do bleed green.
So Donovan McNabb and Dan Marino.
Yeah, well, yeah, Jason Taylor.
Okay, all right,
Jason
interesting. So football, top of the list, but
Bob Greasy.
Bob Green, he's another number two. Actually,
Yeah, he was our neighbor, so it was like
really,
it was
was
all
he?
cool. Yeah,
Oh, wow, very cool, very cool.
and he's a Dodger fan, like
And Dodger, and then for
ridiculous.
football, Charger fan.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the Chargers. I don't like what's going on this year that they want a new stadium.
They almost came here.
I know, and
Yeah.
I don't want them to
They-
come here.
They might still.
You know what, and this may fall on deaf ears. This may fall wherever, but I'm a fan of football. I'm a fan of the Chargers. This is my biggest complaint with the Chargers. This is my biggest complaint about football in general. There is no love of history. They throw out stadiums just to get bigger ones. There's only a few old stadiums left, and that's the Packers. Packers are never leaving that stadium.
That's owned by the
That's owned by the people.
Yeah.
And I believe Qualcomm should be a heritage stadium, and we don't deserve a new stadium until we get a ring, and even then, if we do get a ring, it's going to make that even better. Right now, it's tough to, if you want to go to Charger game, it's easy. You can go to a Charger game. Getting a new stadium is going to make it even more easier. The fans are not supportive of the team. I'd rather save all that money, put it back in to the team to get a better winning team.
Right.
So
that'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be great. But they're so bent on this new stadium. New stadium is going to bring more fans in. They could care less about the stadium. They just want a winning team. Create a winning team. Then we'll talk about the stadium 10 years down the line. But by then, I'll still want to keep Qualcomm because that's where Elway won his first Super Bowl. How could you take that away? So much good stuff happened at Qualcomm, and it's just like, oh, let's just erase it. That's where LT did so many great yardage, and he broke everything.
Yeah, I mean, and plus too, with a history of any stadium, you have, you can have landmark status, but at the top of that list, you have billionaires who own this property, and if they have ownership, they can do with it what they want. We want more luxury boxes. We're going to do this. We're going to do that, and we're going to trade away our best players to get more draft picks, and it's like, okay. The city, it's going to be a taxation situation with trying to get that new stadium, but it's kind of what the problem with the Rams are going to face, or at least here in this market. This is Los Angeles. This is the town of many entertainment options. If you don't bring a winning product to the field, if you don't right away, people will drift onto other things. We've got Magic Mountain, we've got Disneyland, we have the beaches, we have other sporting outlets, if that's our thing, to gravitate to. We've got hockey, we've got soccer, we've got baseball, we've got everything.
The X Games,
exactly.
surfing.
So Stan Kroenke can spend his billions down in Inglewood, which, of course, will be great for the economy. It'll bring a lot of jobs to the area. But the Rams have not had a winning season in a long, long time. And when you get into an area of like, well, we're going to have the Rams are returning. Well, that's going to be great for the short term. But until they start really doing something significant, people are going to, $200, $300 tickets. I mean, it's like, all right, well, good luck with people paying that. That's why Arena Ball didn't last long when the LA Avengers were here. It lasted 8 seasons. LA Kiss, well, God bless them, but I think, they're not. No one wants to support a loser. Everyone wants to support a winner. And that's kind of how this town is. I see it. Even when the Lakers aren't doing so great now, people show up, but they're not selling it out. We have other options. Until you show us that you're, to the coaches, to the players, to the management and everything, until you show us that you are going to commit yourselves to this city, and if the teams aren't winning, people move on. It's that simple. It's just that simple. So,
costs a lot of money to keep a team in.
Yes, it does.
To
keep the lights on, it costs quite a bit.
People don't understand that. So as sports fans, we all need to go out and support our teams, which means showing up, buying merchandise,
See, I'm
getting a hot dog.
Yeah, I'm a real sports fan because for the Dodgers, I only go to Dodger Stadium, and when I buy clothes, it's only at Dodger Stadium.
Really?
Because everything is like, okay, all my money is truly going to them. If I go to a sports place, like a sports chalet or whatever, I don't want to buy anything there because I know that like my money isn't going to them. It's going directly to, that's why I never go to an out of, like, every once in a great while, I'll go to watch the Dodgers at the Padres, at
Petco Park,
because it's a nice stadium. But I try to spend as little money as possible because I'm giving all my money to the bad guy.
All right. I mean, well, you're going to be out a few bucks with concessions
and
parking.
Yeah, but I try to keep it as low as possible. Yeah. That's how much of a fan I am.
Well, okay. Well, you might have a long season this year.
Oh, dude, it's beyond long. It's beyond long. It's grueling.
You have to check out this new social media website called Mad Talent, and it's all about sports and sports owners and sports players are all on this network, so you can talk to them and hang out, and it's like Facebook but for sports.
Okay.
Mad Talent, MADD Talent.
Make note of that.
Yeah.
I'm I'm sure all the GMs are on there trying to get millions of likes. No,
Well, no, you'd be
that's the
surprised.
worst.
You'd be
No
surprised.
GM wants to talk to any fan
No,
because
they do.
because they don't. Look,
They do.
GMs
What they
don't
want
look
to
at
talk
it.
to are hot girls.
Mark Cuban's
So-
pretty. Yeah, that's the thing. Mark Cuban. He's pretty interactive from the Dallas Mavericks.
Yes, he is.
You know, he's someone that I do. I mean, very indirectly, I always hear some tweet he's made or some comment he's made in the press. So he tends to be interactive with the fans. So
Yeah.
mad talent. Okay,
Mad Talent.
check it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool little website. It's going to take over and be massive soon.
Well, let's get somebody on there from there so we can, so we can be a part of this bandwagon. Let's hear another song. Okay, I'm curious about the Butthole Surfers. I've
You
heard.
would be.
Well, no, I mean I've heard their music.
Mhm.
I like them, but I'm dying to know the correlation with you and them.
Well, it's an interesting one.
They're an interesting band too.
Yeah,
Needless to say.
that was the appeal that I tried to approach, hoping to sign someone while I was at Capitol Records, and this is the late '80s into the '90s. That's when I was there. They were a very quirky independent band
Yeah.
that put out many releases on independent labels. Their success was predicated on their following that they had. It was sort of like a very loyal following, kind of like how the Grateful Dead had a very crazed following that would go to every single show, record, tape every single show, and put it out there for all the fans to hear. And very visual band, lyrics that were very esoteric, very just left of center. But they were, there was some punk rock in their material that I appreciated. The angle really that I had was the fact that their popularity was growing and growing, and that led them to a slot on the Lollapalooza tour in 1991. The president at the time of Capitol, he was a big Grateful Dead fan. So I was trying to see if I can merge the two and see if there was an angle here, because I wanted to work with them just to give it a shot, because I was having a very difficult time trying to sign the local talent in Los Angeles, hitting the clubs night in, night out. But there are a lot of bands that were out there looking for deals and hoping that something happened. But it was a long road to get to that point, and I made some tapes. I put together some their best cuts. We had many meetings about it, and really what it took was the president seeing the band and then sort of getting what they're all about, and then me trying to explain to them who they are. And then I had to do a hard sell really to every department, because the band had already had a name. They had moderate success, but they were never on a major label. And really, 15, 20 years ago, that was a big deal. Mm-hmm. So one thing led to another. We were able to make the deal. Bands from Austin, Texas, led by the very enigmatic Mr. Gibby Haynes. And the song that we're going to hear was a leadoff track from Independent Worm Saloon from 1993, produced by John Paul Jones. And, of course, if you don't know that name, Google is your friend.
Yeah.
This video features a lot of artwork by Robert Williams. Flea appears in it, and it's a great rockin' song because, they sort of changed a little bit when they were signed as far as their sound, but there was still the punk rock element, and their weirdness was still there, but it was a little more fine-tuned, a little more refined.
Who was in your room last night?
We know who was in your room, a dog.
Right.
Yeah.
Peeing.
I know. Lonely life I have.
Nobody was in my room last night. Last night was Monday. So for me, Monday, it's funny, everyone's like, I hate Mondays. It's like, I love Mondays because Mondays are my Fridays. So if that makes sense, I talk a lot like that, where somebody's like, oh my God, it's Wednesday. I'm like, dude, it's my Sunday, So I was out. Now I've been saving my tips up for the week, and I made $11 in tips. So usually I make about 4 or 5. And
How many hours is taking place to get $11 in tips?
36.
Wow.
A new job is in order.
Yeah, man. That you need to.
Well,
Either you need to step your game up, or you have some cheap ass customers. I'm sorry to say.
Here's the thing.
Bartenders at the Rainbow make that in like 20
Seconds.
minutes.
20 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it all
Wow.
goes back to the culture of who tips a barista. Who, who.
I do. I do every time.
In change.
No,
I get
I
tipped
always
in a lot
give
of change. I've gotten tipped
$1
in
every time.
I've been tipped a penny. I've been tipped 11 cents. I've been you name the denomination. I've been tipped it. So it's
Foreign currency.
yeah. Unforeign currency. I just got $1.70 in Norwegian money. I got tipped in.
Wow.
What does that look like?
It's these three little coins, and some girl's like, "Oh, this can get you a small cup of coffee in Norwegia or Norwegian
Norway.
Norway." I'm like in Norwegia. I'm like, okay. And I was like, yeah, because apparently I'm gonna go there. But all right, cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna take all my tips,
Man,
my 11 cents in tips, and go to Norway.
Yeah,
it's messed up.
I've been tipped in tokens of like do you know what a boomers is? Boomers is like they have like what's it?
Are they like
golfing
arcades?
Yeah, like
so like golf
arcades.
land or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know what boomers. Oh man, really?
Yeah.
I got tipped. I went though. I was like, all right.
People, send tips for Turtle. This is Tips for Turtle Tuesday.
Yeah. So I had $11, so I was feeling like a king.
Wow.
So I went out to the bar and I had like 2-3 drinks, and yeah, it was great.
Wow.
I partied till like 2 a.m.
Yeah, I need to work on that,
It's
man.
crazy. Have you ever been a bartender?
No, but I've been around bars for many years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I saw you at the bar the other day, at the Rainbow.
Well, I worked there.
I know that.
Yeah.
What do you do there? Cook?
DJ Will.
No, I do not cook. I put together music, DJ upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the amount of years that people have been going to the Rainbow, 20, 30, 40 years, to this day, so many people have never been upstairs beyond where the bathrooms are. And I said, well, that's where I'm at. Because there's a bar up there, there's a dance floor, and then bands play up there. So that's been the
Crazy
gig.
things happen up
A
there.
lot of crazy things, a lot of crazy unmentionable things
Yeah.
happen there. But I enjoy it. I love it. I've been working there for the last 6 years, and it's fun. And everyone knows where that's at. So
They do.
it's when you're trying to promote a gig, you're trying to say, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? Where's your next show at? Where's your next gig? Well, I'm here. I'm going to be at the Bow on these days. Everyone knows where it's at. So
Right.
Yeah.
that's really helpful.
There's been so many changes on the strip, with the loss of Mario and, everything that's changed. I think it all started with.
Well, he's still alive. Miguel passed
Miguel,
away.
I'm
Yeah,
so sorry.
Miguel is the original.
Sorry, Mario.
Yeah, Mario unfortunately
yeah,
is not
Miguel.
at that point yet, and God bless him. He's
Yeah.
still with us.
Yes. But it started when we lost Bill Gazzari.
Yeah.
That was it changed everything. I think it changed the whole scope of what the strip was about.
Well, he was such an iconic figure at Gazzari's. Then when the club closed, and then we had the earthquake, and then no one knew what was going to happen with the property. Slowly but surely, it did change. And then we had a very change in styles. We had a change in what labels were signing. But on the Sunset Strip, some real subtle things changed that led to the demise of what we knew the strip was. And that is everything from, the increase in parking to the meters to the permit parking signs, and West Hollywood put an edict on no flyering.
Right.
You could not.
That was awful.
You could not advertise your shows on the telephone poles. You could not pass them out for fear of being getting a ticket, and that really, all these things really just sort of made people shy away from going up to the strip. Really, for just those reasons. I mean, granted, you still had bands that were still kicking around. The Roxy, the Whiskey, the then Central, which ended up being the Viper Room, then the Troubadour down at Santa Monica Boulevard. But as far as the Sunset Strip, man, it really, really started to dry up towards the latter part of the 80s into the 90s, and then it just sort of, I don't know, just took on a whole nother direction.
Yep. It's very sad, when you grow up in the 80s and you've been a part of the strip and, flyering, and I've been on a lot of flyers.
Yeah.
I was the tough on your tick, girl. Um, so I was on every telephone pole there was, and I remember, how packed the sidewalks would be,
Yeah.
and how many flyers that you would have between the whiskey and the rainbow. You'd have 600 flyers in your hand.
Yeah, and that block
from
and a half,
different
you would
bands.
just like, here, come see my band. Hey, we're playing
Yeah,
here
it
tomorrow.
was
Here's
like,
here's $2 off. It's just like boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
It's like bands who aggressively were, promoting their own bands. That's what you did.
Right.
That's what you did to get the word out. There was no social media. The flyering was the social media.
Yeah.
So that was a huge part of what made the scene the scene.
Right.
Is the bands themselves and their penchants for promoting themselves and getting
Right.
the word out. Not just the beautiful girls at all the nightclubs, but just other bands just in competition with each other. Flyering was it.
Yeah,
what
yeah.
else
God
we do?
bless all of the promoters out there today who are, still working the clubs, like Kelly McGeary, who was at House of Blues and is now down in Anaheim, and Gail, what's her last name?
I'm trying to blank.
Yes,
Yeah.
she knows who she is, and Jake Perry,
Good old
the
Jakey.
whiskey,
Yeah.
and you're keeping the clubs alive on Sunset. Otherwise, everything is dead without them. So, again, like your sporting events, go and support local bands and touring bands. Anybody that's coming through there,
And
you
DJs,
have to
man.
show up. Absolutely,
If it wasn't for a DJ, you would
Yeah.
not know what music was.
Right.
And
you can see some amazing things. Like over at the Whiskey, you have the jam night that's going on with Chuck Wright and
Tuesday nights there,
Yeah. It's amazing the caliber of musicians that are coming through there. You're just you'll never see that anywhere else in the world other than right there on the Sunset Strip, and it's and very accessible. That is free. You can go to the Rainbow and you drop $3 and you get to see great music, and you get to hang out with great stars, and so go back out, go support, take the little tiny flyers, bring them with you.
Yeah, it's getting down to the wire in terms of look, let's be real. There's more bands than there are venues for them to play at, and just the acts that are there doing their original material. It's just like support what's left of the scene, because it's still there, it's still viable, but it's really tough. I know, to get people out if you don't have something to give them to go see.
Right.
So it has to go beyond your family and friends. It's like build an audience, build a following, but
Yeah, it's so hard.
It's-
These poor bands now.
yeah, any band coming out nowadays, it's like there's no artist development.
No.
Everything needs to come pre-packaged, and it's okay. What digital download can we promote this? It's like, no, you gotta tour, you gotta write songs. It's tough. I mean, any band nowadays up and coming, they've got a real uphill battle, but they're out there. They're
Yes.
out there slowly but surely. They're still out there.
Yep.
In this day and age. So
Yeah.
that's why I appreciate that. I appreciate the struggle. I appreciate the fight, and even a lot of these smaller clubs, San Fernando Valley and in Los Angeles, Orange County, they're out there as well. It's just gotta just keep the awareness going.
Yeah.
And it's always tough. It's always tough.
We used to have a place in the valley called FM Station.
Yeah.
Which was such a great venue to play. I used to love to be there, and the owner, and amazing man. He was so full of life, and he just passed away. So that was like,
Yeah. The one and only Filthy.
yeah. It was very hard. We're losing a lot of our, old time rockers and rock supporters. So, we have to do that for ourselves, again. And like KNAC.com, you're bringing back rock, so people are listening to it, like us.
Exactly.
We bring you music that you don't normally get to hear on your everyday mumbo
Life.
jumbo stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the appeal, like to give you options,
Right.
as opposed to the things that you're normally used to listening or seeing. It's like I try to give you options and sort of let you know what's out there because this is all I know for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
Just talking, interviewing, promoting the bands. I mean, that's my the love of music will never stop.
Right.
So.
Right. Exactly. I mean, where are you going to hear the Fascinated and Exodus on the same show? I mean, really.
It's true.
Right.
I'm curious about your DJ style. When you go DJ, are you in the KNAC mode, or are you playing just a variety of different things? And are you doing vinyl, or what? Do you have a rig?
I do have a rig, but
vinyl or
yeah,
is it all
I
digital?
vinyl is always nice, but often with like live events or special events, whether it's like a rap party or some special thing at a convention or overseas or something like that. In those instances, it's about portability and practicality. Whereas, the typical DJ, if anyone equates a DJ, it's usually pressing buttons, or a fader here, or fader. It's, to me, it's a little more than pressing buttons. It's knowing your audience. But since I'm predominantly a rock and heavy metal DJ, I'll cater to whatever particular event I'm doing. So for special events, I'll do both. If it doesn't call, whatever it calls for, I'll cater to that particular event. KNEC is, since it's a radio station, obviously, a big DJ. All right, coming up next, we have this. So it's about promoting the songs I'm about to play, the songs that you just heard, or coupled with the fact that, hey, this is something brand new. I'm going to interview this band whose single you're going to hear in just a bit. So I'll take on that persona of just like promoter guy. Hey, for instance, I introduced Metal Church and Armored Saint recently at the Whiskey A Go-Go and also in the Corona. But I wanted to do that because I love those bands. 105.5 used to play those bands. KNEC.com plays those bands on a regular basis. So here's my opportunity to introduce the bands that I love that I might be turning on to someone who's seeing them for the first time. So that's sort of like the persona of like, okay, here's the personality from KNEC.com. So there's that. But when I do shows, or like when I do the Rainbow, smaller confines. So laptop, hard drive.
Right.
But it's like it's a Rainbow Bar and Grill. You got to play rock and roll. That's really something that I always stick to. But I have been hired for a wedding. I did play a whole series. I did a bar mitzvah. There's that. I did a Lithuanian-Russian wedding not too long ago, and that was very interesting. But
What did you play?
I played what the bride gave me. So it was a litany of things that she had suggested that I mixed in with some rock things. But I'm trying to remember the one band that really got people off, and these were like people in their 50s and 60s. The one band that got people out of the tables on the dance floor, it was...
Go Bordello? Yeah, those guys are cool.
I fired that up and people went crazy. So it was because I didn't think to play. This is just an example of like, I would probably not play them on my show. I don't get requests for them at the Rainbow,
Right.
But for that particular gig, they're the client. I'm providing a service. So in that instance, I said, okay, Go Bordello. It's like, all right, let's try that, and boom. It was a perfect mix, and everyone went away with smiles on their faces. And I was like, I would have never thought of it, so it worked out okay. So my collection, again, as I continue to build it and have music from just about every style, I listen to everything. But for the most part, when I'm hired for something, I do try to cater to whatever that event is, and it's always been a good word of mouth. So I appreciate that.
If I ever get married again, I'm walking down the aisle to like System of the Down.
Done deal. Got you covered.
I know a DJ.
I got you covered, Max.
Yeah.
Got you covered.
Now, for more info, people can email you, thevault@knac.com.
Yes, thevault at knec.com. Social media is DJ Will, at DJ Will KNAC. And same thing with Instagram or Metal DJ Will, or just simply go to my website, metaldjwill.com, and that'll take you to all my social media links. And, if anyone has something they want to suggest or something that they think I should hear, by all means, let me know. But it would be helpful that it's heavy metal.
Where Traders Fall.
All right, I will give it a listen. I'll give it a
I'm
listen.
just saying.
Got to keep an open mind.
Thanks so much for being on the show. Really enjoyed it, and I always enjoy backstories to bands. I feel when I do listen to the radio, there's not that much backstory on a band. It's just here's the song, it's great, boom,
Yeah.
and it is great. But like you really get more in tune with the song when you know more about the band. So I enjoy stuff. That's kind of DJ that not that I DJ anywhere, but in my head when I DJ to myself, I'm telling myself these stories or whatever.
Yeah, little anecdotal things to share with the audience. Well, thank you, Turtle. Thank you,
Yeah.
Max. I appreciate it. So.
Yeah.
Now the last song that we are going to leave with is Princess Pang, Trouble in Paradise. I've never heard of this band.
They were a band from New York City. It was sort of an attempt, our foray into getting sort of that sleazy rock type of artist. This is on the heels of the Guns N' Roses success, and the Junkyard had come out at the time, and L.A. Guns, Faster Pussycat, so on and so forth. I was intrigued by them because I simply got a demo tape. The name was unique, and when I heard the actual song itself, I said, "This is very, very good." Turns out it's a female singer. I didn't know that. I couldn't really tell in the very grainy black and white picture I saw at the time, but it was a 5-piece. A couple of them are from Finland, the rest are from New York, and ended up being, they just didn't break big, but they at least did a video. We did one record with them, and we just sort of missed that boat. We had Ron St. Germain produced them. They had Andy Gould as their manager, who handles White Zombie, and Rob Zombie, and Concrete management at the time. So they had great management, they had a great production. They just didn't get on that bigger tour, and they just could not get to that next level, and it was unfortunate. But this was also one of the last signings I did for Metal Blade Records, and I'm happy for what it was at the time. It would have been nice if they went on to bigger and better things. Princess Pang.